My name is Nanyonjo Maggie, a teacher from Maryland High School. Thank you so much for being attentive on our program, Somera Ddiirolyo BBS Terefayina. Last week we looked at announcement. Many of us responded to the task that I left, and many of you really tried. You just had errors here and there, I know, which we worked on and you will rectify. So today, our topic of discussion is composition writing, and this time we're going to look at a type of composition called discursive. Now, if you realize our first lesson, we looked at composition writing, and maybe what I didn't tell you, among the compositions that we have, the types of compositions that we have, we had narratives, we have descriptives, we have discursive, as we're going to see today, and then we have expository. These ones, most cases, what we have been exposed to. Okay? So we have been looking at narratives, and then with a combination of descriptive, because when you're writing a narrative, you're telling a story, and along the way you may find yourself describing some characters, describing some structures, and so you could combine the two. But there are times when we also write independently descriptive compositions. We shall also look at that. At least we looked at narrative with a combination of descriptive. So today we are going to look at what we call discursive compositions. What are these compositions? Okay, what are these compositions? But before we go to our discursive compositions, I want us to have our registration. Some of the students that forwarded their work and was marked. So here we have Nsubuga Joel Trevor from Seroma Christian High School. We have Namitara Mariam from Gombe Secondary School. We have Christine Uwase. We have Kutesa Charles from Centenary High School, Nyendo Masaka. We have Muchibi Benjamin from Makele College School. We have Mary Nshuti from Ishaka Adventist School. We have Lubega Kizito, Garden Grove College, Budo. We have Bugembe Nicholas from St. Maria Goretti Katende. We have Kahunde Marion from St. Joseph's Nagalama. We have Wembabazi Margaret from St. Mark's School, Hoima. Senyonga Patrick, Matovu Twaibu, Masaka Secondary School. Biribagwa Joeria. We have Sanya Dennis Chigongo from Our Lady of Consolata Secondary School, Chireka. We have Nansubuga Patience from Lugazi Homestone School. We have Mukisa Maria Vivian, St. Henry's High School, Mukono. We have Isaac Ampaire, Sacred Heart College, Chotera. Kansime Proskovia Kashaka Girls School, Barada. We have Kasime Brenda Chebambe Girls Secondary School, Fort Porto. We have Kansime Brenda Kashaka Girls School. We have Arak Elizabeth Garden Grove Budo. We have Hannah Mutonyi Bristol High School. Ziwa Umaru Kampala High School. We have Mukwere David Bokadura Mixed School. We have Chijambu Ernest, St. Maria Goretti Katende. We have Chijambu Eric, that is Chijambu Eric, then Chijambu Ernest, St. Maria Goretti Katende. We have Serugwawo Winston, St. Maria Goretti Katende. We have Namaingo Florence. We have Katerega Aaron, Masaka Secondary School. We have Kayaga Robbins Tracy, St. Martin Secondary School. We have Abbott Danila, Mita College Kawempe. We have Kayongo Williams, Makede College School. We have Adeng Sherry New Hope School. We have Sonko Fred Kolo High School. We have Kusima Marvin, Katikamu SDA Gayaza. Mujuni Angel, Rubaga Girls Secondary School. Claire Nakalema Midland Kajansi School. We have Batere Klaus. We have Ephraim Pius Kamoga Nyenga Seminary. We have Abaho Abel St. Mary's College Kisubi. We have Kawesi Brian, St. Stephen's High School. We have Nasanga, Angel Mengo Secondary School. We have Mercy Faith Atim, Bishop's Priano Changire. We have Mary Sheila, Bonnie Council Girls School. Wangadi Valentine, Ruboni, Ame Secondary School. Mubezi Kathy, Jawate SS. Nakagolo Esther, Destiny SS. Sacred Precious. We have Namutawe Noeline, St. Joseph's High School. St. Stephen's, sorry. And Nachondwa Josephine, St. Stephen's High School, and so many others. If you've not had your name, maybe next time, okay? So let us continue with our discursive composition. As we're saying, these are types of compositions that we have, but today our focus is going to be on the discursive. Now, unlike the previous composition that we're looking at, the narrative, this one is kindly a little different. It is more of more of your personal opinion over a subject or a topic that we are going to have. It is more of an essay writing. It needs somebody to have knowledge on essay writing for you to be in position to write these discursive compositions. So basically, we are going to see that this discursive composition needs you to think a lot. I think it will help a lot of people who are engaged in debating or who do debates, because these are people who sit down and think of different opinions of a given subject and then make research on them and then come up and present. So if you're that kind of person, I think this kind of composition will be a little easy for you or good for you. I find so many students or candidates running to these kinds of compositions, the discursives, because they think they're easy. They relate them to the essay writings in the other subjects, let's say CRE or religious education or maybe history, and because some of the subjects to be discussed in English language are within their subjects. Yes, English language is an integrator, it integrates the other subjects into the language. However, there are other things before we continue to look at what discursive is. There are other things, specific things that the examiner will look out for other than the so many points that you would wish to give. To begin with, you must be in position to mind your language, because in English language, for us, before we look at anything, it is a language. So we must look out for all the other aspects that cover the language. Of course, you know, when it comes to the tenses, we shall be very careful and we shall look out for them. When it comes to sentence structures, we shall look out for them. When it comes to punctuation, we shall look out for them. And so many, many other aspects. Let's say the items of merit. If you've used some idioms, you've used some more sayings, you've used some vocabulary. So even when you're going for discursive compositions, do not just rush through and write one sentence composition and then you think, I've given them points after all. It is not about points, if I may warn you early. It is about how best you can express yourself. How best can you discuss a given subject? How best can you discuss a given topic? So here we are with our discursive. Now, if I may tell you what discursive writing is all about, or composition. It is also called argumentative writing. Argumentative comes from the word argue, but not, some people argue to annoy others. This time you're not arguing to annoy others, but you're arguing to put your views, your opinions across so that you may be understood. If possible, the other person can cross from the side where he has been to come to your side, or appreciate maybe the other side of life, or the other side of the coin, or the other side of the topic. Maybe sometimes you want to clarify on something that people did not know of the other side. So when you bring in your opinion, that's what happens. So we are saying discursive is also called argumentative writing, okay? So if you find maybe in certain textbooks where they have discursive or argumentative, so do not say, but again, what is this? No, it is the same. All these mean the same. Discursive, it means to discuss, to express yourself, to give your ideas, your opinion over a topic. To argue the same way you give your opinion over the subject, but maybe giving convincing, persuading, and then taking maybe a given stand. Okay? So we are saying discursive is also called argumentative writing. It is a type of composition which sets out clearly the logically differing opinions on a pertinent issue. So when we look at maybe pertinent issue, pertinent means important, important, serious issue, okay? A student takes a stand and attempts to convince the reader about the merits, advantages or disadvantages, in other words, merits or demerits of his point of view. You could decide to come up and say, yes, these are some of the disadvantages of this. However, we also have these advantages. But I think the disadvantages outweigh the advantages of this. And because of my opinion, or because of what I have said, I believe that we would rather go for the advantages rather than, something like that. You take a stand even when you've given the two sides. There are other times when you may not necessarily give the two sides, but you need to give your own stand. We are going to look at various questions and we shall see how to answer them, especially in this area, okay? Because there are questions that are going to necessitate us to take a stand immediately and then only give your side of view. But there are also other areas where you need to discuss the two sides and then take a stand on which side you think outweighs the other. So candidates, I think, should take this also very important. That with the questions where you need to give two sides, again, do not give one side because that will limit you on how many marks you have to get. So you must understand and be able to interpret these questions as we are going to look at them. So we are saying that a student is supposed to persuade and convince. Now these two words, persuade and convince, are very important when it comes to discursive writing, okay? Some people do not know how to convince. And before they convince other people, they are already annoyed. If I tell you I have not understood what you are saying, or if I adamantly refuse to understand, it is up to you, the person who is defending or taking a stand on a particular side, to ensure that you persuade me or convince me so that I can either cross over to your side or understand your point of view. But now, like I said at the beginning, it will need people who engage themselves in debates. If you're that kind of person who like debating a lot, I think this is your area. I think this is where you can do best. I think this is very good for you. So long as you get to know the rules that will govern this kind of writing. So we are saying that you must convince and persuade your audience on this side of the story you have decided to defend, okay? So if you have decided to take maybe the disadvantage side, maybe the disadvantage, you're going to defend the disadvantages of some topic, please ensure that I get to know me, the person who is on the side of the advantage. If, for example, let me give a contagious issue of politics. If you are on opposition, make me understand and love your side. Let me understand the usefulness of opposition. Let me see the advantages. Let me see the good in it. But the only problem would be if I talk about, but oppositions, I think, are very chaotic, and then you get annoyed. No. Make me understand that they're not chaotic. Make me understand that they're very good. Make me understand that they are really looking out for us and for our own good. And then you who's on the other side, maybe the ruling government, maybe NRM for our case in Uganda, can you ensure that you persuade me, convince me to love the side of the coin that you own? Instead of just telling, but don't you see what they have done? What is there to see? I don't see. Tell me and maybe show me. And maybe I can be able to see. So while you're using this kind of composition or writing, the candidate, the learner, the student should ensure that you plan and organize yourselves to persuade and convince the other person reading your side of the story so that they can shake their heads, in this position or that position. Otherwise, you may not win marks from the examiners. So we are saying the need for reasoned argument on the particular issue is paramount. Make sure you reason. Some of us, like I said at the beginning, you're just going to give us points, you write them there. After all, maybe you write points and they're considered in the other subjects. But for us here, I want to remind you, it is as much as we need the points, it's not only about points. We need the language. We need to see how you can express yourself in the target of these discursive compositions. Because if you look at the narratives, it is a story that you are telling. It is a story that you could have read in the newspapers, a story that you could have read in the novels, a story that a friend could have told you, a story that somebody could have narrated somewhere, and then you picked it and then you came and then you convinced us that it was your story. But here in the discursive, we expect your brains to be at work. We expect you to reason. That's why we are saying here that your reason argument on a particular issue is paramount. It is very important. You need to reason. We need to see your brains at work. I think you're going to realize that this is the time, especially when you look at the new curriculum, where the students' brains should be put at work. Unlike the other side with the narratives, many of you, you find your way. Somehow you find your way and you get the good marks. Whichever way you may use, you can get good marks. But here in the discursive, we shall tell who a mediocre candidate is and who an average candidate, or rather who an average candidate is, and then a very good candidate. So you need to express yourself as one who is very good. So put reasoning in your writing. This will, however, be based on your research on the topic. But of course, we are saying that this time, during the exam, if the paper is in front of you, an exam, a question on discursive, you may not have time to make research. But why don't you get involved in current affairs? Many of us have phones because I see when you send me work, many of you send from your lines. As much as you are using the internet to do maybe for fun, communicate with your friends, also use it to read, outside. Read on the current affairs so that you get to know if you're that kind of person who's interested in the discursive composition, so that you can have at least items to defend your work. You may have aspects or experts' opinions to defend your work. Otherwise, your work may not be that very good. Okay? And we are saying that, but some questions may ask for your opinion. Yes, as much as you're giving your opinion should be the reasoned one. Like I said, think, put your brains at work. So we're saying in many cases, your arguments may be clearly organized. Okay? Many times, they may be clearly organized and must be clearly organized and supported with information that you've already researched on. Otherwise, don't just put or assume that I think this is what I should put. My dear, some of these ideas may be used against you, or some of these only that for classroom setting, for examination. Of course, nobody's going to dig into. But in the future, we are training you to be people who are going to debate in the future, who are going to become our honorables in Parliament, the MPs, so that while you express yourself, you are able to use the language efficiently and effectively, and then you're able also to have made research about the topic that you're going to discuss, so that you don't just stand in public or in front of people and you discuss anything with it. No prior knowledge. You're going to be embarrassed. Some of these words are going to be used against you in the courts of law, and even the media is going to expound on some of those errors that you're going to make. So for you to avoid that, you must ensure that your information is supported by evidence. Evidence you could have, it could be in terms of statistics, it could be in terms of pictures, it could be in terms of references on maybe past events and so many others. So if you have that such, then maybe you can be able to express yourself and then support your opinions. And we are saying that while you're expressing your opinions, ensure that you do not go personal. Don't go personal. However, we expect you to be very formal. Okay? The level of formality should be very high, especially when it comes to language. So do not, because it is your own opinion, do not just come out with the slangs and then you're going to attack some more personalities. And we do not expect that. So we expect you to be very formal in your way of expressing your work so that people can really see that you've been a student of English language. And let's look at some of the qualities of these argumentative pieces that we may write. What must we have? So let us look at qualities of a good argumentative piece, and then we shall see. Okay? So we're going to see qualities of discursive composition. What must we have as we write? Okay, so the language, as we begin, the language should be formal, tactful, and courteous. Let me put emphasis on courteous. At least we have said it should be formal. It should be formal. That one I've already talked about it. So we don't expect you to use slangs. We don't expect you to use short forms. We don't expect you to involve any colloquial kind of language, but formality. However, why am I putting my emphasis on courteous? Courteous comes from, your language should be respectful. You should respect the other people's opinions. Do not attack them directly and call them names. You know, some of us during the debates, we have such tendencies. And we may even bring that in our writing. It is very wrong for you to attack the other people directly, especially their personalities. Okay? So let us be respectful. Even when we have divergent views, you can decide to respect the other people. The fact that we have the ruling party in our country as per politics and then the opposition does not necessarily mean that the opposition should disrespect the ruling party. Neither does it mean that the ruling party should disrespect the opposition. So that is what we call courteous. So it should be respectful, in other words. Okay? It is very important that you respect the other people's opinions. Then ensure that the topic is balanced and unbiased. You may choose to agree and show your point, okay, your points of view, okay? And then discuss the other controversial issues. Because yes, you might be on the side where you know that what you're saying is right. However, somehow, somewhere, you may also see that some of the ideas you agree with are a little controversial. You can also cite it. So don't be very parochial and so short-sighted that, no, I think when I say that this blackboard is black, it is black. What if I say it is green? What will you say? But no, there has never been a green blackboard. I mean, what if it is white? There are blackboards that are, there are boards that are white and we write on them. So always do not just be biased, okay? Be a person who reasons and who can be a little flexible. Then we are saying it is also vital to point out the areas of agreement. If in your maybe motion of discussion or topic of discussion, you have some areas that you think you can agree with the opposition, the other side that you don't is on the other side, please agree with them. You can agree with them to a smaller extent. Actually, it could be even the smallest extent. Sorry. But do not rule it out. Do not rule it out. Okay? Then evidence of supporting your ideas should be provided as well. So we expect you to be that kind. Then we're going to look at the format of such kind of writing. We are going to write the discursive compositions as we write essays, okay? And so we are going to write them in paragraphs. Here, we are not going to expect you to put headings. We do not expect headings here. We expect, like I said, we're going to write in a formal way, or the way we write essays. I know many of us have written essays, even the other subjects. So here, we're going to look at the essay writing kind. So we are going to see that in our paragraph 1, we are going to have the introduction. And what must we have in our introduction? Okay? In our introduction, we're going to make sure that we introduce, first of all, the state of focus of our essay. Okay? We're going to introduce the state of focus over SE, introduce the topic, and then maybe in our introduction we could decide to define. You define the keywords. It is very important that you define the keywords, okay, of especially within the question or the task that has been given. So you define some of the keywords. Then we're going to look at paragraph 2. What should we have in paragraph 2? After you've introduced to us the topic, you've defined some of the keywords, what are you going to talk about? Paragraph 2, we're going to look at introducing the argument. What is the argument there? This argument might be introduced in a what? Okay, the argument. What is the argument there? The argument will be introduced maybe in a, you could decide to use a quotation. You can decide to use maybe a rhetoric question. You can decide to use a saying. Quotation could be maybe a saying. You can decide to use any kind. It could be an idiom or any other to ensure that you do what? You attract attention, and then to show the person that you really know what you're going to discuss, okay? So why do you introduce with a quotation or a saying, but all of these should be within the topic of discussion or the subject of discussion, so that you don't go astray or you don't seem to be distracted from what you are discussing. Then we're going to look at maybe what we have in paragraph 3. What should we have in paragraph 3? In paragraph 3, we're going to look at development of our ideas. Development of ideas. Now this is where we are going to really focus on writing our essay, okay? You're going to put your arguments in different paragraphs while you're expressing yourself with different ideas. And here, while you're expressing yourself in different paragraphs, in this paragraph, actually I've mentioned paragraph, but this can be, paragraph 3 can have other paragraphs, as many as you can, because you're developing now your ideas, okay? You're developing your ideas. You're putting the statement, the ideas in their statements, of course, in the paragraphs. And as you develop these paragraphs, you're going to give us various examples. You're going to give us evidence to defend your work or support it. And then after, you're going to ensure that you express or explain or illustrate your opinion so that we may be able to understand. Now, in this paragraph, or rather in this area where you're developing your ideas, ensure that your paragraphs are really big enough to be understood, rather for you to be able to express yourself. I mentioned earlier on that do not write one line or one sentence paragraphs. Many of us candidates are fond of that. For you, your intention is to give as many points as possible. But even if you come out with 5 points here, 5 ideas, well explained, you've given the points very well, you've illustrated them with the various examples and maybe evidence or facts that you've used to defend your work. And then after you've explained them very well for me or for any other person in the audience or your examiner, your teacher, to understand, then you're able to get good marks so long as the language is also well used. You're able to get the marks. So make sure that your paragraphs are well explained. Do not use one sentence paragraphs, because one sentence will only express your idea. What about your explanation and then the other facts that you may want to bring across so that you may be understood? So you have to ensure that you develop your ideas very well. And then maybe paragraph 4, we are saying that here, we're going to look at the conclusion. The conclusion. How are you going to conclude? Because many of us now are going to say, actually, many candidates have issues with the conclusions. Now, in a conclusion, you can come up with a different way. Sometimes you can even conclude with one of the points that you're ending with. Okay? You could say conclusively, maybe there are more advantages to this than the disadvantages that we are. Or in conclusion, these have done this and that. I mean, you find a way of ending, but you could decide to end with a point, one of the points, one of the ideas, as we shall see in our example that we have. But you find a way of concluding so that you sum up all that you have. Actually, other times, you will need to take a stand in your conclusion so that whoever is reading your work can tell which side are you, okay? As you may have taken the conclusion in your introduction, okay, or as in your introduction of paragraph 2, as you try to bring out your argument, even at the end in your conclusion, we expect you to remind us of your stand. And your stand should match with the way you have expressed yourself. Otherwise, if you have expressed yourself defending the positives or the positive side of that question, and then at the end in your conclusion you are defending the negative, then we shall see a lot of confusion, and then I don't think you'll get very good marks. So let us be able to secure the marks. Let us be on the same page. Let us continue, follow and flow as we write, so that our conclusion should match with the way we started with our argument. Okay? Okay. So some of the questions that may come or may appear in such areas. Actually, maybe what I didn't tell, this is section B. I know the candidates now, for them they are aware. Maybe the senior threes may be the ones with issue. They don't know where this one comes. It is normally in paper 1, English paper 1, but section B, where we have the composition writing. But like we said at the beginning, there we have different compositions. And so here we are looking at the discursive. So what are you going to say? There are some questions or numerous questions that will come in such areas. And some of them will start with, for example, we could say, do you agree that polygamous marriages should be abolished from our communities? You know, such a question can come. Do you agree? Communities give your reasons. So actually the questions are on the screen. I may not need to write them. You may maybe take a screenshot. Do you agree that polygamous marriages should be abolished from the community? Now with such a question of do you agree, you have to take one side. You cannot say to begin with, I disagree. Then after you say, however, now I think to some extent I think I agree. With do you agree questions, you have to take one side. If you don't agree, please state it in your introduction, how you don't agree. And then the good thing, when you look at the question they have given us, do not just say, no, I do not agree. But you have to give your reasons. And the reasons are some of the paragraphs that you're going to write here. Explain them very well. Give some of the examples why you don't agree. Or you could give some experiences. Actually, some of these opinions may come from our experiences, can help us defend our opinions. So you could give maybe some experiences in your community where you disagree and you think polygamous marriages are very good. And maybe because of your experience, for you have gained from them, or people in your community have. So you give your reasons. Then there are those people also who will say, I really do agree, or I strongly agree. Then if you strongly agree, go ahead and also give your reasons. Why do you agree that these polygamous marriages should be abolished? However, for this particular question 1, please ensure that you give only one side. Defend it very well and then give a conclusive statement. Then let us look at question 2. What arguments would you use to persuade others to like music as a dynamic subject? As a dynamic subject. So here, you give your reasons why you think. If you think, by the way, you cannot go for such a question, ignore it. You know, sometimes learners want to go to where they think they're not going to write much. But with the language or English, we want to see how you express yourself. There is no way you're going to get marks if you're not going to express yourself. So whatever you call much, I don't know, but at least they will have indicated how many words they expect you to write. At least go for 2 pages. You must be able to give your arguments of how you can persuade others to like music as a dynamic what? Subject. So if you're not able, then go for another question. So do not get stuck to one particular question. After all, there are so many when it comes to section B. It's not like in section 1 where, section A where we have only one question. Section B has so many questions. So just look at all of them and find out if you can attempt any. Let us go to, actually before you leave question 2, there is no other way but you have to give the arguments to support, because that is what the question says. There is no other way of saying, but no, my arguments do not support. I think I do not support. It is not indicated in the question. So please make sure that your question is, your answers are geared towards the question so that you can be able to answer very well and get marks anyway. Otherwise, you may be termed as the person who has failed to understand the question, and then you lose marks there. So let us look at question 3. Discuss what should be done to cover the challenges. That was incomplete. So I think the question was incomplete, but it was identify five common challenges in your school. Identify 5 common challenges in your school. Discuss what should be done to cover these challenges. Okay? After you have identified the 5, then you're going to discuss what should be done. So do not only identify the challenges, you must tell us what those challenges are, how they come about, and so on. And then later we expect you to discuss what should be done. In other words, you're giving us solutions on how maybe we can be able to rectify on these challenges. Okay? And then the other question is, teachers rather than students. It was teachers rather than learners are responsible for academic failure. Teachers rather than learners are more responsible for poor academic performance in secondary schools. Actually, that's what we're going to look at today. Then it is in quotation marks, and then we have discuss at the end. Okay? Teachers rather than learners are more responsible for poor academic performance in secondary schools. Discuss. Now, with such a question, you're going to realize that, like we said when we're looking at some of were they qualities, or there are times when you have to take a stand or you go to a particular side. However, there are also times when you realize that there are things that you may really agree with the other side that you're not on. However, you take your stand and say, even when this is in existence, all this may also contribute. However, what contributes most to this maybe topic or to this subject is this and this, and so that will be your stand. So we shall see that yes, you have identified this, however, you are on this stand. Like you could come out and say that yes, the NRM government has done A, B, C, D. It has worked on the roads. It has given free education to some needy learners. It has done A, B, C. ABC, you identify all those good they've done. You say, however, we need change because of my reasons. And maybe your reasons of that change, maybe for opposition, may outweigh the other side that you started with. And so we shall know, as per your stand, that you are on the side of the opposition. So that's what we are looking at, especially when you look at such questions where you have discuss at the end, or even sometimes discuss at the beginning, because you're going to discuss. Discuss means that you look at either sides, and then you can see on how to cope. So let us look at our question, our example that we are looking at today. So we are saying teachers rather than learners are more responsible for poor academic performance in secondary schools. Discuss. So here we have two parties. We have the teachers and then the learners. So who do you think is more accountable? Who do you think is more responsible for the poor academic performance in secondary schools? So this is what basically we're going to look at. And remember where we started from with our paragraphs. What did we say? Okay. So we are going to begin. If we look at, can we look at our essay? Let us look at our example of the essay. Can be shown on the screen. So we're just going to rush through, and we're going to begin by defining. So as we said that we're not going to have headings, but we're going to begin with paragraphs. So we're saying we are defining the teachers and then the learners. Teacher is a person who gives lessons or lectures in a school, college, university, and sometimes in church. A learner is a person who takes lessons to acquire knowledge on particular subject, or attending school to attain knowledge in different subjects. So now there we have defined who a learner is. The key words, learner, teacher. So we are beginning now our argument. The hot debate of whether the teachers or students are responsible for poor academic performance in secondary schools is relative depending on who is given the opportunity to discuss. To a smaller extent, teachers are responsible for the poor performance in secondary school as shown below. Now you see my stand. That is my stand. To a smaller extent, teachers are responsible for the poor performance in secondary schools as shown below. So I'm going to give my reasons. In my introduction, my second paragraph, I have given you my argument and I have taken my stand. So in the third paragraph now, I've started to develop the ideas. Recently, some teachers fail to attend to their lessons in secondary schools, especially in government schools, which has left learners cheated in terms of knowledge. In many upcountry public schools, teachers deliberately dodge their students so as to attend to their gardens or other businesses. This leaves the syllabus coverage inadequate, which compromises the learner's ability to answer questions in examination. Hence, poor performance in academics. Paragraph 2. It is also said that some teachers drink a lot of alcohol and others are lazy to attend to their learners in secondary school. These teachers come to school but forge excuses not to attend to learners. Others go to classes only to quarrel with learners and just give simple exercises, then leave. This leaves the learners frustrated with those particular subjects, thus poor performance. Then we have multiple schools taught by one particular teacher may render them incompetent. This may be termed as moonlighting, the teachers know. These particular teachers do not have time for their learners and may not give comprehensive content. This leads to academic failure in secondary schools, which many learners would come out half-baked. Okay? So now I'm changing my side. I'm saying, on the other hand, learners are highly responsible for their poor performance. Okay? Highly is my stand of showing that learners have more are more responsible for their poor performance in secondary schools, and I've said to a greater extent as follows or as below. Continuous dodging of lessons by learners in secondary schools, which leaves many learners without notes to read, content and knowledge in particular areas of all those ill-fated subjects. This is so common in public so-called youth schools. It is obvious that such learners who continue to dodge lessons will have no knowledge of answering questions in examinations, thus poor performance. In addition to the above, the vice of examination malpractice, also known as kasasi, among learners in secondary school makes them think that will enable them pass with flying colors. These learners do not put in any effort in reading, do not pay attention during lessons, and before they know it, exams are knocking at their doors. They fidget, and with a lot of anxiety, they fail their exams. As the saying goes, the hunter becomes the hunted. Worse still, peer pressure among boys and girls has proved to mislead many secondary school learners. These boys and girls find themselves influenced by their counterparts to escape and dance escape and dance, drink alcohol, gamble, take drugs. By the time these learners wake up, it is already too late. Just as to assert the saying, as you lay your bed, so must you sleep in it. So they perform poorly. Consequently, inadequate role models, mentors for these teenage learners to look up to for their career building contributes to uncertain future to these youngsters. These find themselves admiring celebrities whose education background is uncertain. Their naivety makes these learners to believe and think they can make money, become successful without much help from education. Thus, less concentration in their education and poor performance. To sum it all, now I'm concluding. Look at my conclusion. I'm saying to sum it all, the learner's misconception of ownership of their parents' wealth leaves many lazy and undisciplined. Some learners come from well-to-do families with a lot of wealth property. Others are the only children in their families. All these reasons leave these learners to pay more attention to their parents' wealth than education. Thus, do not care much about how their grades turn out. Such thinking leads to poor academic performance in secondary schools. With all the above reasons, learners seem to be more responsible to the poor performance in secondary schools. Now, I hope you've seen how we have gone about that essay. You've seen how we have started. You've seen how we have brought up our argument in paragraph 2. You have seen how we have developed the other ideas and how I have changed the side to go on the other side to defend my stand, and then the conclusion, okay? The conclusion. So as we try to conclude our lesson, I think if you've taken some screenshots, that will help you to do what? Some screenshots that will help you to make your revision. I want you to look at our first question that we had. Do you agree that polygamous marriages should be abolished from our communities? Give your reasons. Give your reasons. So I'll still leave my email. .com mnanyonju 1987 at gmail.com. So you may forward your answers on the email number. Those who have the WhatsApp number, you can also forward on the WhatsApp. Thank you so much for paying attention. Thank you so much for responding to these tasks. And please ensure that you do practice. English needs practice. Without practice, you cannot achieve much. So thank you so much for being good students.